My name is Qux'maleth, and I have been strategizing military campaigns for the hegemony for over 3 centuries. In that time, I have witnessed the fall of 47 civilizations, the subjugation of countless worlds, and the complete erasure of species so primitive they barely deserved the title of sentient. I have orchestrated victories that would make lesser beings weep in awe. I have crushed rebellions before they could even form their first coherent thought. So when the Galactic Council approached me with their latest target, I almost laughed out loud. Almost. We hegemony officials do not laugh, you understand. We express mild amusement through a series of clicking sounds that would probably terrify most species into immediate submission. Humans, announced Council Leader Zeftar, his 4 eyes blinking in what I assumed was supposed to be dramatic emphasis. They call themselves humans, and they have been making noise in the Outer Rim. I accessed their files through my neural implant, and what I saw was underwhelming. Bipedal mammals. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. They had not even mastered faster than light travel properly yet. Their ships looked like they had been assembled by enthusiastic children using spare parts from a scrapyard. Their weapons technology was roughly equivalent to what we had been using as training equipment for our younglings 3,000 years ago. "Sir," I said, trying to keep the boredom out of my voice, "are you quite certain this requires military intervention? Perhaps we could simply send a strongly worded message. Or maybe just ignore them until they evolve into something more interesting." Zeftar's mandibles clicked in what I recognized as bureaucratic annoyance. They have been expanding their territory. They have established colonies on 17 different worlds. They are persistent. Persistent. That was the word he used. Not dangerous. Not threatening. Not even mildly concerning. Persistent. Like a small insect that keeps buzzing around your meal dispenser. "Very well," I sighed, already calculating how quickly I could wrap this up and return to more pressing matters. "How many ships shall I requisition for this operation?" The council exchanged glances. This was never a good sign. When bureaucrats start looking at each other like that, it usually means they are about to say something spectacularly stupid. We thought, Zeftar began carefully, that this might be an excellent training exercise for our newer commanders. Perhaps 50 vessels? If 50 vessels. For comparison, we had used 200 ships to completely obliterate the Vrexki Empire, and they had actually possessed shields that could withstand our basic plasma cannons for almost 30 seconds. The Kethvani Confederacy had required 300 vessels, but only because their homeworld was hidden inside a nebula, and we had to spend time looking for it. 50 vessels, I repeated slowly, to deal with bipedal mammals who have barely figured out how to leave their own solar system without their ships exploding. Exactly. Zeftar seemed pleased that I understood a simple cleansing operation. Wipe them out, claim their worlds for the hegemony, and give our junior officers some practical experience. 2 birds with 1 plasma bolt, as they say. I should have known better. I really should have. When you have been in this business as long as I have, you develop certain instincts. There is always something. There is always one detail that makes everything go sideways. But humans looked so ordinary, so unremarkable, so completely, utterly normal that it was almost insulting. Their military records were a joke. They had been fighting among themselves for most of their recorded history, which suggested they had not even figured out basic cooperation yet. Their largest conflicts had involved throwing metal projectiles at each other while hiding in muddy trenches. Their most advanced strategy appeared to be charge forward and hope for the best. The Zenthraxi had at least possessed psionic abilities before we crushed them. The Mordak had been able to manipulate gravity fields. Even the pathetic Gulktar had developed some rudimentary biotechnology that gave us a few minutes of mild entertainment before we vaporized their homeworld. But humans had nothing. No special abilities, no advanced technology, no mysterious powers or ancient secrets. They were just there, existing, taking up space that could be better utilized by more deserving species. "Fine," I said, pulling up the deployment schedules on my tactical display. "I will assign Commander Vex Thul to lead the operation." He needs the experience, and this should be simple enough that even he cannot mess it up too badly. The fleet I assembled was magnificent in its complete and total overkill. 50 hegemony dreadnoughts, each one capable of reducing a planet to molten slag within hours. 300 support vessels, enough firepower to obliterate everything in a solar system twice over. The humans would see us coming from several light years away, and hopefully they would have the good sense to surrender immediately. I filed the mission report as a routine training exercise. Expected duration, 2 standard days. Expected casualties, 0 on our side, total extinction on theirs. Expected complications, none whatsoever. Looking back now, I realize that might have been somewhat optimistic. The first sign that something was not going according to plan came exactly 47 hours after our fleet entered human space. Commander Vex Thul contacted me through the quantum communication array, and I could hear something in his voice that I had never heard before. Confusion. Actual, genuine confusion. Senior Strategist Qux'maleth, he began, we have encountered the first human vessel. It is not responding as expected. I was in the middle of updating my personal files with what I assumed would be a glowing victory report. What do you mean, not responding as expected? Did they surrender immediately? Are they begging for mercy? Are they offering tribute? No, sir. They are laughing. I paused in my data entry. I am sorry, Commander. Could you repeat that? The translation matrix must have malfunctioned. They are laughing, sir. At us. The human vessel is called the Defiance, and when we transmitted the standard surrender demand, their commander responded by making jokes. This was unprecedented. In 3 centuries of military campaigns, no species had ever responded to a hegemony surrender demand with humor. Terror, yes. Desperate bargaining, certainly. Pathetic attempts at negotiation, frequently. But jokes? What kind of species makes jokes when facing extinction? Put me through to this human commander, I ordered. I will handle this personally. The communication link activated, and suddenly I was looking at the most unremarkable face I had ever seen. The human commander had brown hair, brown eyes, and an expression that could only be described as amused. He was actually smiling, while facing down 50 hegemony dreadnoughts. Well, hello there, the human said in a tone that suggested he was greeting a neighbor rather than a superior alien force. I am Commander Jake Morrison of the Earth colonial ship Defiance. And you are? I am Senior Strategist Qux'maleth of the Hegemony, I replied, trying to project the appropriate level of intimidation. You will surrender immediately and prepare to be processed for relocation. Commander Morrison tilted his head slightly, as if considering this proposition. Then he said, no, just like that. No, not we need time to consider, or what are your terms, or please have mercy on our families. Just no. Perhaps you do not understand, I said slowly, as if speaking to a particularly dense youngling. We have 50 dreadnoughts. You have 1 small colony vessel. We are giving you the opportunity to surrender peacefully. Oh, I understand perfectly, Morrison replied, his smile growing wider. You have 50 big scary ships, and you think that means we should just roll over and die. But here is the thing. He leaned forward, and for a moment his expression became something else entirely. Something that made my primary spine tingle with an emotion I had not felt in decades. We are humans, and humans do not roll over. That was when everything started going sideways. The Defiance was not a warship. According to our scans, it was a converted cargo hauler carrying 15,000 colonists to some remote world in the Outer Rim. It had no military-grade weapons, no proper shields, and absolutely no chance of survival against even a single hegemony corvette, let alone 50 dreadnoughts. But instead of running, instead of hiding, instead of doing any of the sensible things that a rational species would do when facing impossible odds, the humans did something that still makes my head hurt when I think about it. They attacked. Not with weapons. They did not have any real weapons. They attacked with their ship. Commander Vex Thul later described it as the Madison Maneuver, apparently named after some human historical figure who had done something similarly insane centuries earlier. The Defiance suddenly accelerated directly toward our lead dreadnought, the inexorable Doom. Not to ram it, you understand. That would have been suicide, but at least it would have made sense. No, they did something far more creative and far more infuriating. They started transmitting. "This is Maya Volkov, chief engineer of the Defiance," came a voice over the open communication channels. "I want everyone to know that we have just jury-rigged our fusion reactor to go critical in approximately 7 minutes. We are going to ram the biggest ship in their fleet and take it with us." "Maya, what are you doing?" Morrison's voice cut in. "We agreed on 12 minutes. "Tommy Chen here," said another voice. "I vote for 5 minutes. More dramatic that way." "This is Lisa Park in communications," said a fourth voice. "I have been broadcasting our position to every human ship in the sector. They should be here in about, 3 hours. Think we can hold out that long? Against these clowns?" Morrison laughed. "We could hold out for 3 days. I watched in growing horror as the humans continued their completely insane suicide run while casually discussing the timing of their own death as if they were planning a dinner party. The inexorable Doom was forced to retreat. A Hegemony dreadnought. Retreating from a cargo hauler. The Defiance exploded exactly 7 minutes later, taking out one of our escort vessels that had been foolish enough to get too close. But before they died, they had accomplished something that should have been impossible. They had made us look weak. They had shown the galaxy that humans would rather die than surrender. And worst of all, they had made it look easy. Commander Vexthal's voice came through the comm again, and now I could hear something else in it. Something that sounded suspiciously like respect. "Sir," he said quietly, "I think we are going to need more ships." 3 weeks later, I was beginning to understand why the word persistent had been used to describe humans. What I had not understood was that persistent in human terms apparently meant completely, utterly, and absolutely insane. We had surrounded their homeworld, Earth, with a blockade that should have ended any reasonable conflict within hours. 500 hegemony vessels in perfect formation, blocking every possible escape route. Our quantum jammers prevented faster-than-light communication. Our gravity disruptors made hyperspace jumps impossible. By every tactical measure that had worked for the past 3,000 years, Earth was finished. The humans, however, seemed to have missed that particular memo. Admiral Qux'maleth reporting, came the voice of my newly appointed field commander. I had replaced Vexthal after he suffered what our medical officers diplomatically called stress-induced tactical paralysis. Less diplomatically, he had started making clicking sounds and rocking back and forth whenever anyone mentioned humans. "What is the situation, Admiral?" I asked, though I was beginning to dread the answer. "Well, sir, the good news is that our blockade is holding perfectly. Nothing larger than a shuttle could possibly escape our detection grid." I waited. With Qux'maleth, there was always a but coming. But he continued, right on schedule. The humans seemed to be ignoring our blockade entirely. "What do you mean, ignoring it? Are they attempting to break through?" "No, sir. They are pretending it does not exist. They are still launching vessels. Dozens of them. Every day." This made no sense. What kind of vessels? Warships? Escape pods? Garbage haulers, sir. I blinked all 4 of my eyes in sequence. "I am sorry, Admiral. I thought you said garbage haulers." "I did, sir. Waste management vessels? Recycling ships. One of them was apparently a mobile sewage treatment plant. They have been launching them at us for the past week. And you have been destroying them, I assume?" There was a pause. A long pause. The kind of pause that usually preceded very bad news. "Well, sir, that is where things get complicated. The first few garbage haulers we destroyed normally. But then we started noticing that they were modified." "Modified how?" "They had weapons, sir. Improvised weapons. The sewage treatment plant had somehow been rigged to launch pressurized waste containers at high velocity. The recycling ship was firing compressed metal cubes, and yesterday, a refuse hauler managed to damage the invincible Conquest by ramming it with a load of frozen organic waste. I felt a headache developing behind my primary optical organs. Admiral, are you telling me that humans are attacking hegemony dreadnoughts with garbage? Yes, sir. But that is not the worst part. Of course it was not. With humans, there was always a worse part. The worst part, Qux'maleth continued, is that they are winning. How can they possibly be winning? They are throwing trash at us. Effective trash, sir. Yesterday, Captain Elena Reyes led a rescue mission using 17 converted waste haulers and somehow managed to extract 3,000 human civilians from the Proxima colony before we could respond. Our sensors could not track them because their ships were literally invisible to our detection systems. Invisible? How? They covered them in garbage, sir. Actual refuse. Our scanners are programmed to ignore space debris, and apparently humans qualify as space debris. This was getting ridiculous. Admiral, I want you to adjust our scanning protocols immediately. From now on, we track everything. Every piece of space junk, every floating refrigerator, every... Sir, did you say refrigerator? Oh no. Admiral, please tell me there are no floating refrigerators. Sir, I regret to inform you of what intelligence is calling the Great Refrigerator Incident. I closed my eyes and counted to 10 in 3 different languages. Explain. Yesterday at 0347 hours, the dreadnought Eternal Dominion was struck by what appeared to be a small asteroid. Upon investigation, the asteroid turned out to be a human household appliance, specifically a refrigeration unit. A refrigerator hit one of our dreadnoughts? 17 refrigerators, sir, along with washing machines, microwave ovens, and what our translator identified as something called a blender. The humans had somehow strapped rocket engines to their kitchen appliances and launched them at us like missiles. Did they cause any damage? The Eternal Dominion is currently listing to starboard and requesting emergency repairs. Apparently, a washing machine got lodged in the primary plasma conduit. I rubbed my temples with all 4 of my hands. Admiral, how exactly does a washing machine disable a hegemony dreadnought? We are still investigating that, sir. Our engineers are baffled. They keep muttering about impossible physics and violation of basic engineering principles. One of them started crying. This was beyond comprehension. In 3 centuries of military service, I had never encountered an enemy that weaponized household appliances. The hegemony military academies had entire courses on advanced tactical theory, xenobiology, warfare, and quantum combat dynamics. Not one of them had covered what to do when the enemy starts shooting kitchen equipment at you. Sir, Qux'maleth continued, there is something else. The humans have been broadcasting propaganda? Surrender offers? Pleas for mercy? No, sir. They have been making announcements to the entire galaxy. A cold dread settled in my stomachs. What kind of announcements? They claim they are winning. They claim they are what? Winning, sir. They have been sending daily updates to every major news network in the galaxy, describing their ongoing victory against hegemony oppression. They call it the Daily Human Stubbornness Report. I accessed the broadcast logs through my neural implant, and what I saw made my blood temperature drop by several degrees. A human female with bright red hair was speaking directly into a camera with the burning wreckage of what looked like a hegemony escort vessel visible in the background. This is Sarah Chen, reporting live from Earth orbit, she was saying with the kind of cheerful enthusiasm usually reserved for discussing pleasant weather. Day 21 of the hegemony siege, and we are happy to report that human morale remains absolutely terrible, which is exactly how we like it. Today's casualty report shows that we have lost 47 ships, 3 space stations, and approximately 15,000 kitchen appliances. However, we have also successfully annoyed our invaders to the point where one of their commanders apparently had a nervous breakdown, so we are calling this a win. The broadcast continued with what could only be described as tactical analysis delivered in the tone of a cooking show. Tomorrow's forecast calls for continued resistance with a chance of garbage-based warfare. Admiral Qux'maleth, if you are listening to this, we have prepared a special surprise for you involving surplus dental equipment and some very creative engineering. Sleep tight. I turned off the broadcast and stared at Admiral Qux'maleth's hologram. Admiral, please tell me you have a plan to end this madness. Sir, I have tried everything. Standard siege tactics, advanced psychological warfare, even offering them favorable surrender terms. Nothing works. They just keep fighting. No matter what we do to them, no matter how hopeless their situation becomes, they refuse to acknowledge that they are losing. Maybe, I said slowly, we need to try a different approach. What did you have in mind, sir? I sighed deeply. Send for the Bioweapons Division. The Bioweapons Division arrived with their usual air of smug superiority and their collection of horrible, species-ending plagues that had served the hegemony so well over the centuries. Dr. Qux'maleth, their chief researcher, assured me that humans would be extinct within 72 hours. We have developed a pathogen specifically tailored to human biology, he explained, his tentacles writhing with scientific enthusiasm. It attacks their primitive immune systems, shuts down their organs, and causes complete cellular breakdown. We call it the Crimson Death. I should have known better. I really, truly should have known better. But after 3 weeks of watching humans weaponize kitchen appliances, I was willing to try anything. The deployment went exactly as planned. Atmospheric dispersal units released the Crimson Death into Earth's atmosphere, and our scanners confirmed that every human on the planet had been exposed within 6 hours. By every scientific measure, the species should have been extinct by morning. Instead, Dr. Marcus Wright happened. The first indication that something had gone wrong came from Admiral Qux'maleth, who contacted me with what was becoming his signature tone of barely controlled panic. Sir, the humans are broadcasting again. Are they begging for mercy? Offering surrender? Requesting medical aid? No, sir. They are giving medical advice. I felt my heart skip several beats. Medical advice? Dr. Marcus Wright, apparently their chief medical officer, has been broadcasting detailed instructions on how to survive what he calls Tuesday's mild inconvenience. He is treating our most advanced bioweapon like a common cold. I access the human broadcasts, dreading what I might find. Dr. Wright was a thin human with graying hair and the kind of calm demeanor that suggested he had seen far worse things than alien plagues. Good morning, everyone, he was saying as if discussing the weather. So, the aliens decided to try biological warfare today. How predictable. We have analyzed their pathogen, and I am pleased to report that it is actually quite primitive by our standards. Primitive? Our bioweapons were the most advanced in the galaxy. The good news, Dr. Wright continued, is that human immune systems have been dealing with far worse things for millions of years. The bad news is that this particular virus appears to have been designed by someone who fundamentally misunderstands how evolution works. He held up a data pad with what looked like a genetic analysis. You see, the Crimson Death attacks our immune systems, which would normally be fatal. However, it also triggers our adaptive response mechanisms. In simple terms, it is teaching our bodies how to fight it while it tries to kill us. It is like having a very enthusiastic but ultimately self-defeating teacher. I watched in growing horror as Dr. Wright explained how human immune systems were not just resisting the plague, but actually adapting to it in real time. Within hours of exposure, humans were producing antibodies. Within days, they were completely immune. Within a week, they were somehow stronger than before. The most interesting development, Dr. Wright noted with the kind of scientific curiosity that made my skin crawl, is that the virus seems to have accidentally triggered some dormant genetic sequences. We are seeing improved reflexes, enhanced healing, and what appears to be increased resistance to radiation. I want to thank our alien friends for this unexpected gift. Gift? We had given them a gift? Dr. Qux'maleth contacted me in what could only be described as a state of scientific hysteria. This is impossible. He shrieked through the communication array. No species can adapt that quickly. It violates everything we know about biology. Apparently, I said dryly, human biology has not read our textbooks. But the worst part was yet to come. Within days of the failed bioweapon attack, we started receiving communications from other species across the galaxy. Not humans. Other species. Species that had remained neutral in our conflicts for centuries. The Zenth Carry Collective sent a formal inquiry about our alleged humanitarian violations. The Mordak Federation requested clarification regarding hegemony biological warfare policies. Even the normally isolationist Vector Empire asked pointed questions about our competence as a galactic power. The humans had somehow turned our bioweapon attack into a public relations disaster. Sir, Admiral Qux'maleth reported during our daily briefing, we are receiving protests from 47 different species. They are calling our biological warfare incompetent and embarrassing. The Gulktar Union specifically requested that we stop making the rest of the galaxy look bad. What about the humans? I asked, though I was afraid to hear the answer. They have started a betting pool. A what? What? A betting pool, sir. They are taking bets on what we will try next. Current favorites include angry robots, space monsters, and something called really big explosions. The odds on us actually succeeding at anything are currently listed as not even worth betting on. I stared at the tactical display showing Earth, still very much inhabited, still very much defiant, and still very much making us look like incompetent fools in front of the entire galaxy. Admiral, I said slowly, prepare the fleet for one final assault. Sir, are you certain? After the biological warfare failure, morale among our forces is. Prepare the fleet, Admiral. If we cannot kill them with disease, and we cannot starve them with siege, then we will have to try the one thing humans surely cannot survive. Which is, sir? I looked at the display showing nearly 1,000 hegemony warships surrounding one small blue planet, and I made what would either be the most decisive tactical decision of my career or the most embarrassing mistake in galactic military history. Everything we have got. The final assault should have been the end of humanity. Nearly 1,000 hegemony warships converging on Earth simultaneously, unleashing enough firepower to crack a moon in half. Every weapon we possessed, every tactical advantage we had accumulated over 3 millennia of conquest, it focused on one small blue planet that had caused us nothing but humiliation. For exactly 14 minutes, it looked like we might actually win. Then Captain Sophia Martinez activated something the humans called Operation Spite. I was monitoring the battle from the command ship when the first reports started coming in. Our forward scouts were detecting massive energy signatures from Earth's surface. Not weapons signatures, something else. Something that made absolutely no sense. Sir, Admiral Qux'maleth's voice crackled through the communication array. The humans are launching their cities. I am sorry, Admiral. Could you repeat that? The translation matrix must have their cities, sir. The humans have strapped rocket engines to their major population centers and are launching them directly at our fleet. I watched the tactical display in stunned disbelief as New York, London, Tokyo, and dozens of other human settlements detached themselves from the planet's surface and began accelerating toward our ships, not as weapons, as shields. The humans were literally putting their own civilian populations between their homeworld and our guns. This is Captain Sophia Martinez, came a transmission from the lead city, which our computers identified as something called New Brussels. We have approximately 12 million civilians aboard, along with every major cultural artifact we could grab on short notice. You can destroy us, but you will have to explain to the galaxy why you murdered 12 million non-combatants to get to our planet. It was brilliant. It was insane. It was completely, utterly human. We could not fire on civilian targets without violating every galactic warfare convention that existed. But we also could not allow armed cities to ram our dreadnoughts. We were trapped by our own rules, our own civilization, our own basic decency. The humans apparently had no such limitations. By the way, Captain Martinez continued with the cheerful tone that all humans seem to use when facing certain death. We have also rigged every city to explode when we impact your ships. We call it the "if we are going down, we are taking you with us" strategy. Very technical. That was the moment I finally understood what we were facing. Not a species, not a civilization, not even a military force. We were fighting against the very concept of surrender itself. Humans did not just refuse to lose. They refused to accept that losing was even possible. "Admiral," I said quietly, "order the retreat." "Sir?" "You heard me. Full retreat. All ships. Maximum velocity." "Sir, we can still win this. If we just—" "Admiral, look at your tactical display. Really look at it. We have 1,000 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. And we are being held off by flying cities full of civilians who are treating this like some kind of elaborate joke. If we stay here any longer, they will find a way to defeat us using office supplies and determination." The retreat took 6 hours. 6 hours of human cities chasing hegemony dreadnoughts across space while broadcasting what they called victory songs and making jokes about our tactical withdrawal. Captain Martinez personally escorted us to the edge of the solar system, waving goodbye from the bridge of flying New Brussels. When I returned to Hegemony High Command, the Galactic Council was waiting for me. Their expression could best be described as deeply unimpressed. Senior Strategist Qux'maleth, Council Leader Zeftar began, "We understand you have completed the human pacification operation." "Yes," I said carefully, "it has been completed." "Excellent. And the humans have been eliminated?" "They have been addressed." "What exactly does that mean?" I took a deep breath. "It means that the hegemony officially recognizes humanity as a sovereign species and strongly recommends that all future contact be limited to trade negotiations and cultural exchanges." The silence that followed could have been measured in geological time periods. "I see," Zeftar said finally. "And what is your professional assessment of human military capabilities?" I thought about garbage haulers ramming dreadnoughts. I thought about kitchen appliances being used as weapons. I thought about a species that responded to biological warfare by saying thank you and asking for more. I thought about cities flying through space while singing victory songs. "My professional assessment," I said slowly, "is that humans are the only species in the galaxy that considers impossible odds to be a starting point rather than a deterrent. They do not fight to win. They fight because the alternative is not fighting, and apparently that is unacceptable to them." 6 months later, the Galactic Council issued Official Directive 2847. Under no circumstances should any hegemony forces engage human vessels, colonies, or individuals without express written permission from the High Command. Humans are to be considered a Class 12 existential threat, not due to their technology or numbers, but because they are clinically incapable of recognizing when they have lost. As for me, I retired to a quiet research position studying theoretical tactical scenarios, peaceful scenarios, scenarios that do not involve humans. Because I have learned something that no military academy teaches, something that 3 centuries of conquest never prepared me for. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy is not the one who can defeat you. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one who simply refuses to be defeated. And humans, it turns out, have turned that refusal into an art form.